On the news tonight, Nigerians call for lasting solution to fuel crisis in the country. Political parties back visa ban on election riggers. Nigerian Union of Journalists streamlines membership. India marks Republic Day on revamped ceremonial boulevard. It's glad to have you on the news, on the media report today. I am Kayode Adebayo. The lingering fuel crisis in Nigeria is assuming an alarming situation as petrol now goes as high as 300 naira and 400 naira per litre. Nigerians who spoke with Osbc News in separate interviews lamented that the situation is out of control, calling on the government to find a lasting solution to the fuel crisis in the country. Our reporter, Oluwatobiloba Odunuga, has the details.
For several months now, Nigerians have been facing untold hardship as a result of the fuel crisis that seem to have defied unknown solutions. Going by the blame game between the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPLC, and the Independent Marketers Association of Nigeria, the premium motor spirit, popularly known as petrol, is not only scarce but is being sold at exorbitant prices. Observations by Osbc News in some filling stations visited in Osogbo, the Osun State capital, and its environs revealed that the fuel stations among the independent marketers that have petrol peg the price between 300 naira and 400 naira per litre, while there were long queues in some filling stations belonging to the major marketers where pump price was pegged at 300 naira per litre. The federal government had announced that it may begin a gradual removal of the petrol subsidy from April this year, about 3 months ahead of the initial plan to effect a complete stop to the expenditure aid. Nigerians have, however, advised the government to find a lasting solution to the lingering food crisis. In their separate reactions, Mr. Tunde Bello, Mr. Sunday Oyelade, and Mr. Aresa Inyoda stated that government should be decisive about the implementation of whatever action its plans taken, so long as it would lead to the availability of the product in the country. The trial who spoke against the backdrop of the fuel scarcity coupled with the hike in the price of the commodity maintained that it is much better for the government to implement subsidy removal and ensure availability of the product and save Nigerians from further hardship.
It's not easy to be comfortable with the fuel situation in the nation now, because the fuel situation has affected so many things, economically, financially. It has affected our movement, it has affected our business, because immediately they have put price on the petrol. It will affect price. Everything will go high. The cost of living, cost of transportation, cost of doing business too will be affected. That's why we are not comfortable. I'm not happy, because they have told us that this thing will be hike in some areas or sometimes. If the federal government want to remove the total subsidy from petroleum products, let them do it early, so that the Nigerian no area can find themselves.
Reports say fuel subsidy gulped 2.5 trillion naira between January and August last year. Also, in the medium-term expenditure framework, the federal government proposed to spend 3.3 trillion naira on fuel subsidy between January and June this year. According to the Minister of Finance, Budget and Planning, Zainab Ahmed, removal of fuel subsidy is part of the federal government's medium-term plan in the 2023 budget. She, however, said that the challenge was how to go about removing the subsidy. Oluwatobiloba Odunuga, Osbc News.
In another development, reactions have continued to throw the allegation made by the presidential candidate of All Progressives Congress, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, that the recent fuel crisis in the country, coupled with the redesigned Naira note, were aimed at sabotaging the coming elections. Those who believe Tinubu, while some people believe Asiwaju Tinubu merely exposed the inability of the ruling party to manage the economy, others are worried that the persistent fuel scarcity could affect the forthcoming general elections if left unchecked. Oluchi Amuda has the details.
The much anticipated general elections in Nigeria is around the corner, and politicians have been crisscrossing the length and breadth of the country, selling their manifestos to the electorate.
Made a commitment to 5 issues. 1, to to pledge to unify this country.
What we say we are going to do is to have agrarian revolution. And we cannot start a revolution without cultivating the land in Niger State.
At one of such campaigns, presidential candidates of All Progressives Congress, APC, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, alleged that there was a plan to sabotage the coming election. Asiwaju Tinubu cited the lingering fuel crisis in the country and the redesigned Naira note by the Central Bank of Nigeria as plot to scuttle the poll and sabotage his interest. The allegation has continued to generate reactions among Nigerians, particularly the opposition parties in the country. The People's Democratic Party, PDP, the Labour Party, LP, and Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria, and oil marketers faulted the former Lagos State governor's allegation. The major opposition party argued that Tinubu was simply exposing the inability of the ruling party. Noted that Asiwaju Tinubu, who is the national leader of the ruling party, should take responsibility for the policies his party foisted on Nigerians. In another reaction, the Independent Oil Marketers Association, IPMAN, said it was wrong for the APC candidate to allege that the current scarcity of premium motor spirit was aimed at scuttling the election, adding that the allegation lacked justification. National Public Relations Officer of the group, Chief Ukadike Chinedu, noted that the issue of fuel scarcity has been a recurring issue during the transition periods and not basically because of the election. He maintained that during the time of former President Goodluck Jonathan, it took the intervention of the Senate and Petroleum to sort out the arrests that were owed marketers by the federal government at that time. On his own part, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, urged the APC candidate to direct his worries to President Muhammadu Buhari, who happens to be the Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources. Sub-Nigerians who spoke with Osbc News on the basis of anonymity expressed worry that if the issues raised by Asiwaju Tinubu were not addressed by President Muhammadu Buhari, most especially as regards to fuel scarcity, it could have a great impact on the movement of security personnel, election observers, INEC officials, as well as electoral materials on election day. Oluchi Amuda, Osbc News.
The Independent National Electoral Commission has stated that the People's Democratic Party, Abia State Chapter, can conduct a fresh primary within 14 days following the death of its governorship candidate, Professor Uche Naikone. Reacting to the death, INEC's National Commissioner and Chairman Information and Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye, said Abia PDP has the window to conduct fresh primary within 14 days of Ikone's death. Okoye further said if the candidate dies when polls have commenced, Section 34 subsection 3B of the Act provides that the running mates shall continue with the election and nominate a new running mate. The Commission, however, warned that should the PDP fail to conduct fresh primary within 14 days of the death of the candidate, the party will not have a candidate in the election. With exactly 1 month to the general election, a coalition of civil society organizations under the aegis of West African Democracy Solidarity Network has stated that Nigeria must avoid unnecessary agitation during the electoral process. The organization, a coalition of 30 civil society and other civic organizations in the ECOWAS region, included the Center for Democratic Development and Yaga Africa. According to them, conducting a free, fair, and credible poll will ensure that there was no outbreak of violence and agitations in any part of the country. The coalition also called on the Independent National Electoral Commission to ensure credible conduct of the exercise through transparency. The coordinator of the Wademos, Kopeb Dabugat, made the observations in Abuja during an interactive session between members of the Wademos Election Working Group and journalists ahead of the 2023 general elections. The session was part of the coalition's 3-day solidarity mission to Nigeria from January 25th to 27th ahead of the February 25 presidential elections, while stating that the 2023 general elections in Nigeria were crucial not just for Nigeria alone, but for West Africa and the African continent. He said Nigeria must get it right for the sake of the continent. The ruling All Progressives Congress and Opposition People's Democratic Party have described the decision of the United States to place visa restrictions on some Nigerians accused of undermining democracy as a welcome development. The U.S. Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, who disclosed the decision in a statement, said the sanctioned individuals whose names he did not reveal will be ineligible for U.S. visas. The top-ranking diplomat also explained that some family members of those barred from the U.S. may also be subjected to the same restriction. Speaking with newsmen, the director of publicity of the APC, Bala Ibrahim, said the party frowned at anything capable of threatening democracy in the country and welcomed sanctions against anyone found culpable. The National Publicity Secretary of PDP, Debo Ologunagba, said the party had been calling for such sanctions, adding that the position has remained the same. The present administration in Osun State is set to take every necessary action that will turn the face of the hitherto neglected Owala Dam to a world-class befitting level. The Deputy Governor, Prince Kola Adewusi, made this known during an assessment tour on the facilities at the dam. Saeed Adeboje has the details.
The Owala Dam houses highly sophisticated equipment and located across serene environments that could be used for multifarious purposes. The Deputy Governor, Prince Kola Adewusi, amidst an array of dignitaries, visited the dam to ascertain the level of facility decay due to neglection in the years past. Prince Adewusi expressed concern that such a dam could be neglected, maintaining that it has potentials of generating income to the state government if maximized. Prince Adewusi noted that apart from fishing, the dam could be designed as one of the world's best beach, tourist center, and as well as generating electricity for the usage of residents of the state. The Deputy Governor therefore explained that the present administration will leave no stone unturned at ensuring that the dam become functional.
It's something that the government can tap into to make best use of in so many ways. Like I've experienced today, the Owala Dam here serves so many purposes. One, supplying water to the community in general. It can be used for fishing purposes. At the same time, turbo can be installed to generate even electricity, not only for the corporation, but at least even to be metered out to the society.
Speaking in an interview, the General Manager of Osun State Water Corporation, Engineer Modupe Olajokotola, noted that the dam has the capacity of generating 15 megahours, which will put an end to epileptic electricity supply in the state. She called on the state government to maximize the potential of the dam to the fullest.
We want the government to support the water sector so that this dam is regularly maintained.
From the office of the Deputy Governor, this is Saeed Adeboje reporting.
The National Body of Nigerian Union of Journalists has streamlined membership list of the union to core professional practicing members. At the special delegate session of the union held at an event center in Kano, the Nigerian Union of Journalists expunged the National Orientation Agency, non-practicing Ministry of Information and local government staff from members of NUJ. The delegate session, which reviewed the constitution of NUJ, was presided over by the National President of NUJ, Chris Iziguzo. The new law passed by NUJ National Delegate, the registered public relations officers in the local government from membership status of NUJ. However, all the members of the ministries whose members have been deleted from NUJ who are currently holding elective posts in NUJ will retain the post till the expiration of their tenures. United Kingdom has launched the Developing Countries Trading Scheme in Nigeria, which will see export of goods from Nigeria attracting no duty. UK Deputy British High Commissioner in Lagos, Ben Llewellyn Jones, disclosed this in Lagos. Lillian Jones explained that Nigeria is eligible for enhanced trade preferences in the DCTS, translating to benefits from new tariff cuts on over 3,000 products and in total benefits from duty-free trade on approximately 9,200 products. He further explained that the DCTS will come into force in the spring of the year, replacing the UK's generalized scheme of preferences. According to him, the overarching aim of the new scheme is to grow free and fair trade with developing countries, boosting the economy and supporting jobs in those countries as well as that of the UK. Nigeria is one of the UK's most important partners in Africa, and it abolishes tariffs on over 3,000 essential products that Nigeria currently exports, including cocoa, cotton, plantain, flowers, fertilizers, tomatoes, frozen shrimps, and sesame. The Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, said his ministry has deported at least 70 foreign nationals for various infractions in the last 2 years. He revealed this today at the 64th session of the State House Ministerial Briefing organized by the Presidential Communication Team at the Ashura Hill, Abuja. Ogbeni Aregbesola added that the massive exodus of Nigerians out of the country in search of greener pastures is fueling high demands for passports, pointing out that in 2022, the Immigration Service issued the highest number of passport booklets, totaling 1,899,683 in over 7 years. Also, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Interior, Dr. Shuaibu Belgore, says at least 159 Nigerians have renounced their citizenship in 2022. According to Belgore, 150 Nigerians renounced their citizenship between 2006 to 2001. Security experts, traditional rulers, and other professionals have raised alarm over the rising waves of insurgency in the southwest region, attributing them to non-commitment of the federal government and its agencies to the protection of lives and property of the citizenry. Making the observation at a workshop organized by Yoruba Leadership Peace and Initiatives with the theme Safety and Security in Yoruba Land in Ibadan, Chairman of Western Security Network, Oyo State, Brigadier General Kunle Togun, retired, Rear Admiral Leye Jayola, and Orogun of Okila Obadidokun Abolari and other speakers noted the rising waves of insecurity, the economic impact, and the threat to the lives of the people. General Togun submitted that the government has failed in its constitutional responsibility of protecting lives and property of its citizens, as there are daily reported cases of kidnapping, killings, and other heinous acts nationwide. The former top military chief who advocated the establishment of state police for effective policing blamed the federal government for frustrating the efforts of the Western Security Network, codenamed Amatekun, to arm its men with sophisticated weapons to combat bandits, kidnappers, and perpetrators of other heinous acts. Speaking in the same vein, Rear Admiral Leye Jayola, retired, submitted that Nigerian police has the capacity to curtail the activities of kidnappers and bandits if trained, equipped, and motivated. We now go on a commercial break. Media report continues shortly. Don't go away.
Iskili, báwo la ti fẹ́ sanwó ni? Farabalẹ̀. 1,000. We go wash play tire o. Farabalẹ̀ now. Èló ló wà?
Bọ̀dá na 3,005.
Màá fún yín ní owó òpè káàdì Glo ẹlẹ́gbẹ̀rún 10,000.
Ó yá.
Bring your phone.
Ha! 10,000.
1,000 naira credit. Now you are supposed to 10,000.
No. All of us don't know about Glo Berekete. Ní ìlọ́po mẹ́wàá nísìnyí.
Ṣé o ti gbọ́? Ìlọ́po mẹ́wàá ló máa gbà lórí iyekíye tó o bá rà sórí ohun ìpè Glo Berekete 10 times rẹ.
I told you. Now what go tell?
You are now welcome to our sports segment. Super Falcons head coach Randy Wardrum has called up 23 players for next month's Revolution Cup tournament to be staged in Lyon, Mexico City. Omatayo Adebodon brings details of the story and more from the world of sports.
Hosts Mexico, Nigeria, Costa Rica, and Colombia are the participating teams at the tournament in the state of Guanajuato, with matches between 15th to 21st of February, and with the objective of preparing the contestants for the 9th FIFA Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand. Nigeria will play their first game of the tournament against host Mexico on the 15th of February. 18th of February, the Falcons will be up against Colombia, while Costa Rica will be Nigeria's last opponent. Both teams locking arms as from 11 p.m. on the 21st of February. Meanwhile, head coach of the under-20 team, Ladan Boso, has further reduced his squad as he prepares to drop his final list for the 2022 under-20 African Cup of Nations in Egypt. The 4 unnamed players were dropped before Tuesday's training section, which also afforded Boso and his coaching crew the chance to test some overseas-based players who arrived camp over the weekend. As the Flying Eagles continue their preparations for the tournament in Egypt, the Nigerian Football Federation has penciled a 2-leg friendly against Zambia on Friday and on Sunday. 7-time champions Nigeria have been drawn with host Egypt, Mozambique, and Senegal in Group A of the tournament. The 2023 Under-20 AFCON, which will be played from 9th of February to 11th of March, will serve as qualifiers for the 2023 FIFA Under-20 World Cup. In the meantime, Wimbledon champion Elena Rybakina has another shot at a major title after reaching the Australian Open finals, where she will meet Belarusian 5th seed Aryna Sabalenka. Rybakina, who is 23 years, won 7-6, 6-3 against Victoria Azarenka, ended the 2-time champion's hope of winning the title 10 years after her triumph. Sabalenka beat Poland's Magda Linien to reach her first major final. The 24-year-old Belarusian won 7-6, 6-2 against her unseeded opponent. Sabalenka was the heavy favorite to beat 30-year-old Linien, who had never been past the third round of a Grand Slam event before, and grew in confidence as the match wore on. After losing 3 times in major semi-finals, Sabalenka's relief was evident after securing a place in Saturday's showpiece. Montayo Adebodun, Osbc News.
Now to the foreign scene. India is celebrating its 74th Republic Day on a revamped ceremonial boulevard in the capital, with Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi as a guest of honor. Olubomi Ajiboye Agbola has details of this and more on the foreign scene.
India is celebrating her 74th Republic Day on a revamped ceremonial boulevard in capital, with Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi as a guest of honor. Tens of thousands of people endured the winter chill and mist as they gathered to watch a parade in New Delhi, showcasing the country's defense capability and cultural heritage. The public holiday marks the anniversary of India officially adopting its constitutions and becoming a sovereign republic in 1950, 3 years after it gained independence from British rule. Several thousands of people, braving the cold on a foggy morning in New Delhi, watched the parade from their seats around Katvaya Path or Path of Duty, while many watched on television. Accompanied by marching bands, troops from the country's military, border and police forces paced in perfect synchronization towards the dais, where India's President Draupadi Murmu took the salute. Our Egyptian counterpart Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, in a blue suit and matching tie, looked on as it was flanked by Murmu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The country's rich and diverse heritage was showcased in vibrant tableaux from different states and ministries, highlighting the central theme of Nari Shakti, or women power. The armistice blue comprised only locally made weapons, reflecting India's drive to become more self-reliant in the defense sector. Canada Canada has appointed its first special representative on combating Islamophobia as the government seeks to stem hatred and discrimination after a series of attacks targeting members of Muslim communities in the country in recent years. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced this today, adding that human rights advocate Amira Egrewabi would take up the post with a mandate to support Ottawa's efforts to end Islamophobia and to offer advice on government policies, legislations, and other programs. Trudeau said in a statement that diversity is one of Canada's greatest strengths, but for many Muslims, Islamophobia is all too familiar. Groups operating in the country had tripled in recent years, with anti-Muslim rhetoric one of the most salient topics among right-wing extremists online. Olubomi Ajiboye Agbola for OSBC News.
And that ends the media report on OSBC TV. It was edited by Babatunde Bolatito. I am Kayode Adebayo. Thank you for being there. Good night.